Paranormal Andy and Phantom Dark Dave. The Screaming Skull Podcast.
Welcome back to the Screaming Skull Podcast, a place where horror fans can call home. I'm Phantom Dark Dave, and I'm here with Abnormal Andy. Andy, how you doing, man?
Man, I am doing great. I'm super excited to talk about some more horror movies. How about you?
I'm right there with you, man. I did my normal 9-to-5 job, came home, pounded another energy drink, and there's nothing else I'd rather do to either talk or watch horror movies. And since I can't really watch a horror movie right now, I figure I'd just talk to you about them.
Yeah, man, nothing better than talking some horror with your horror buds.
Horror bros.
Horror bros, there you go.
Or horror sister, if you have that.
Yeah, and our screamers, too.
What's up, screamers? But, hey, man, here we are, episode 3, and we got quite a show lined up today.
Yep, it's the triple threat, man.
It is a triple threat, and so for anybody joining us for the first time, welcome to the Screaming Skull Podcast. We're so happy to have you. Andy and I are buds. I've been podcasting together since 2017, although we did a various amount of shows. This will be the one that lasts forever, or at least we hope so. But just to give you the rundown, this show is kind of general talk, kind of radio show, kind of podcast. It's a healthy mix of everything, but it's always horror all the time, and we're going to throw down a couple of segments every episode. And today, we have quite a show lined up. We have 3 segments. We're going to do horror news. We're going to do our first classic horror movie, which is one that Andy and I hold near and dear to our hearts, and it's the 1954 Creature from the Black Lagoon. And then we're going to have our main event, which is always a new or relatively new horror film, and we're going to talk about one from 2022 called Obstacle Corpse. And so, Andy, man, when we started talking about what to do on this episode, I really liked kind of the way we were going with things. It's like, we always start the episode off, we talk about what's new in the world of horror. That's a really good icebreaker for the show. And then we need to do something old. And what better place to start than with Creature?
Yeah, for sure, man. I know that's one of both of our favorite Universal monsters, and it's such an iconic movie, of course. And so I think, to be kind of like the first classic horror movie that we talk about, I think this is a great pick. I know we're both super excited to talk about it, and it's always a fun watch. It's a shorter movie, but hey, that's okay. So yeah, man, I'm looking forward to digging in and talking about it.
Yeah, and let's give a special shout out to a friend of the podcast, Brian from the Terrible Terror podcast. Outside of you and I, he's kind of the third brother that we know loves Creature from the Black Lagoon. And so we got a healthy trio. And I'm sure a lot of the screamers out there love this movie too, because, when you think about classic horror and you find yourself in the category of universal monsters, everybody has their favorite monster. But man, I think everybody can come together and say that the Gillman is fantastic.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Andy, we'll save the gushing for the second segment. Let's go ahead and kickstart this off with some horror news. You ready?
I'm ready.
Horror news.
All right. Last couple times I threw down a lot of information with horror news, and I don't want to boggle down and, recite an encyclopedia. So this time I kind of jotted down the things that really stood out to me. And so I didn't really focus on a lot of stuff that's in theater right now, because between our second episode and this episode, there hasn't been a lot of overlay, I guess. And I can say what's cool is tomorrow we're going to go see Beetlejuice. And so just going right to that, Andy, are you a fan of Beetlejuice? Please tell me you've seen it.
Oh, yeah, I've seen the first one. Yeah, it's a fun movie for sure.
Okay, cool. So whenever we do episode 4, I'll be able to give you my review on that.
Nice.
All right, so I want to talk to you about some movies that are dropping in physical format, because unfortunately Andy doesn't do physical format, so I have to do it for the both of us. You're welcome, Andy. But let's talk about some 4K Blu-ray movies. Andy, we got Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, making his debut on 4K, directed by Tim Burton, starring Johnny Depp. Are you a fan of this movie?
Could be, if I've actually seen it.
You've never seen Sweeney Todd?
Never seen it.
Oh, my dude. What? Why? Why not? Is it because it looks like a musical?
Yeah, that's probably part of it.
Well, it is a musical, but it's a great musical, and it's extremely bloody. You like Tim Burton, right?
Yeah, from what I've seen of his, I like his stuff.
Well, he did Beetlejuice, man. Come on, segued right there.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And Johnny Depp? You like Johnny Depp?
Oh, yeah. He's always fun.
All right, just don't cut his finger. All right, so Sweeney Todd, dude, I got a Sweeney Todd tattoo. Does that tell you anything?
Oh, wow, that's cool. I didn't know that.
I'm a major fan. So very happy about that. But let's move on to something I know you'll appreciate because it's one of my favorite franchises of all time. Making its debut on 4K Blu-ray, we have the 2005 Amityville Horror remake. What's your thoughts on that remake?
I actually like the remake. I think when I first saw it, I wasn't too crazy about it, but I watched it again like a little bit later, and yeah, I enjoyed it. I think, Ryan Reynolds is good in it. And I think Melissa George is the main actress. She's good.
Name drop.
Yeah, I mean, they have, it's like some CGI, I think, or something, but it's not bad. I mean, for like a early 2000s horror movie, it's pretty good. I mean, hey, it's an Amityville movie, It's
going to pop up in our Amityville segments one day. You know it is.
Oh, hell yeah, bring it.
All right. Yeah, I'm with you, man. I saw that movie in theater, and it was crazy because they do a lot to the source material, like from the original film into the book. And I don't know why, but, growing up, I know you can agree with me. I watched Amityville 2, The Possession, more than the original Amityville Horror.
Okay. Yeah, I did not. I think I watched the original more than... The original was really the only one that I've seen, up until later on, until, like, I think me and you started talking. I think I had seen part 2 maybe once before that, before we started talking.
Wait, am I your positive influence on Amityville 2?
Yeah, you are, man.
Whoa, the driving force. Yes.
And
okay.
Since we've met, I think I've pretty much seen all the original franchise movies. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, joke's on me. I'm wrong again, but that's okay. The thing about the Amityville remake is when they got to the segment where they did the whole like Native American stuff, I thought they made that up for the remake. I got really, really upset. And then because I hadn't seen the original in so long, when I went back and watched it, I found out it was in there. I cooled down after that. I was like, okay, but I'm with you on the Ryan Reynolds thing, man. Like, I am not typically the biggest Ryan Reynolds fan. Of course, I saw the Deadpool Wolverine movie. I thought it was fantastic. But for the longest time, Ryan Reynolds was kind of like always in the limelight. And I was like, I'm not going to watch all his movies. I'm good. But man, you see that funny guy become that scary guy in a horror movie, one that you love. And dude, him playing the crazy stepfather was pretty remarkable. And so seeing Ryan Reynolds with that full beard and the axe in his hand, quite believable.
Yeah, you don't normally see him in serious roles like this. And so it was kind of a nice change of pace for him. Because typically the movies that he's in, they're not really like my thing. Like those fraternity movies that he was in, and Van Wilder.
Yeah, he got his
the Van Wilder movies, and Waiting, I think, was another one. I did see the Green Lantern movie with him in it.
Oh, and a lot of people hate that. I actually like that movie, but that says a lot about my taste. Did you like that movie?
I did like it.
Word. See, I knew we were friends for a reason.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. I got 2 more for you. Also on 4K Blu-ray, The Boy from 2016. Did you ever see The Boy?
I did, man. I really liked that one.
I did too, and that's such a relief to hear you say that because I thought that was going to be kind of your run-of-the-mill type movie, and so when I watched it, I had little to no expectation for it, even though it does have the girl from The Walking Dead in it, so it was like, okay, there's a familiar face, that's pretty cool, she's doing her own horror movie, I like it, and so I'm watching it, and I wouldn't dare give away the twist, but when the twist is revealed, it was so refreshing because I was like, well, that's kind of new. And so that just stood out to me as being what kind of made the film from being okay to actually pretty good.
Yeah, for sure. That twist, that's what like kicked it up to like high rating for me because I won't spoil it, but I just love that kind of twist in a movie, in a horror movie. So I really enjoyed it.
The guy who directed The Boy's name is William Brent Bell, and he has quite a resume. He did The Devil Inside. I don't know if you ever saw that. That was a found foot. Yeah, okay, yep, it's a POV. Yep. He did Whir, which is actually, or you may call it Where,
Right.
which is the werewolf movie. That movie
Yep.
was freaking awesome.
I've seen that. That's
Okay,
good.
awesome. Yeah, Neil actually recommended that to me.
Oh,
He
yeah.
did Stay Alive, the one where the people are playing the video game, and then it's kind of
Is-
got that like Nightmare on Elm Street vibe, where if you die in the game, you die for real type deal.
Did it have like Frankie Munoz?
It did.
Jr.?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I've seen that one. Yeah.
I saw that one in theater, bro. Back
Me
in the
too.
day. Yeah. And the last one is kind of somewhat of a recent one. He directed Orphan First Kill, so the prequel, I believe. I like the first Orphan movie, but I haven't seen the prequel.
Yeah. Same. I've seen the first one. I enjoyed it. I've not seen the second one.
Why haven't we seen the other one? Like, I also enjoyed it. What keeps us at bay?
I don't know.
I guess because there was really nobody talked about it.
I don't know. I kind of saw some stuff about it, some people talking about it, but I guess I just wasn't really. I don't know. I guess so. It's a prequel, right? You said.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure where they're going to go with the story, and I guess if it's a prequel, you're kind of going back in time, and so I think they probably have to like de-age the girl, make her like young, even younger or something. I don't know.
Well, I mean, they already did a good job of that just with makeup in the
Yeah.
first movie. That kind of blew my mind as well. Whenever I think of that movie, it's kind of funny. I've seen this image on Facebook a handful of times. It always pops up, but it's the actress who plays the orphan, and she's like holding a DVD of the orphan, and it's like in the discount bin at a store, and her mouth's open, like, what? You know, it's like when you become a discount actress or something. It's pretty funny.
Man, that has got to be something when you're like an actor, actress, and you go to like a Walmart and you see your movie up on the shelf. That's got to be kind of a cool feeling.
It is, yeah. I pretend it's me all the time. Last one I got for you, man, is one I'm really curious if you've seen, because it's going to take us back to, I think, the 90s, if I'm not mistaken. But it's a Clive Barker movie, something that was written and directed. Did you ever see Lord of Illusions?
Oh yeah, man, that was one that I had on repeat like back in the late 90s. I had the
Really?
VHS tape. I think I saw like 3 times in the theater, or 2 or 3 times. I had it on VHS tape and I watched it all the time. But surprisingly enough, I haven't watched it for like 20 years probably.
Oh, man. Well, it's, anniversary time, man. It's got a Blu-ray release, and I don't think it's 4K. I think it's just Blu-ray. But I've seen it one time, but it was so obscure that I think my attention span really wasn't there, and I halfway paid attention to it. It was a VHS rental back in the day. But now I know who Scott Bakula is, and so I may rewatch that to kind of see Mr. Quantum Leap do a horror film that's kind of intriguing. But, did I ever tell you I met Clive Barker?
Yeah, I think you did tell me that, yeah.
Yeah, at the, it was either the last horror convention I went to or second to last, which isn't saying much because I've only been to 3. But, yeah, I went to this horror convention and I had a VIP pass, and the reason I bring that up is because everybody knows you pay for autographs. Well, when you get the VIP pass, you get one autograph for free. So it's kind of like one that's inclusive. And I was like, hands down, Clive Barker. And dude, I stood in that line forever. And though it was like a 15-second meet and greet or whatever, I got this 11 by 14 picture of him autographed. And it was really cool because I'm like, holy shit, man. It's like Mr. Hellraiser right there, Mr. Nightbreed. So pretty cool.
Yeah, such a icon of horror,
Yeah, it's Candyman.
Yeah.
But, yeah, man, that's all I got for horror news. So I'm going to pass the torch to you. What's new in the world of horror?
All right, so for my first story, I've got a little bit of local news, local to Kansas City, actually. So you know who Darren Lynn Bousman is, right?
Yeah, Saw 2.
Saw 2, Saw 3, and Saw 4, he directed those. And he also directed Spiral, right?
Yeah, which I love Spiral. Have you seen Spiral?
I have not.
All right.
So he's actually from Kansas City.
Huh.
And I didn't realize that till I read this news story. But he is going to create a one-of-a-kind fusion of terror and immersive storytelling. The director has a warning for those brave enough to visit his creation called Crooked Rose Woods. It's an outdoor haunted house in the suburbs of Kansas City. So I'm excited for that. He says, those looking for traditional scares, be warned. This insidious event breathes, reacts, and transforms with your every interaction. He says, I was raised in Kansas City, and every Halloween, my father and I would venture into the West Bottoms. And for people that don't know, basically the West Bottoms is this kind of warehouse district. And this is where a lot of like the big haunted houses in Kansas City are based in. So it's kind of a creepy area. It's like train yards and stuff. And it's like, It looks like kind of like something from a Saw movie, really.
That's awesome. Is it over by the bell bottoms?
Oh,
Sorry. Oh, I'm a dad.
boom.
Okay.
Okay. So he said his father and him would venture into the West Bottoms. It was there that my fascination with horror and the macabre was born. But as I grew older, I craved something more than the usual shocks and jump scares. I wanted an experience that would truly terrify me. And now I'm thrilled to bring that to my hometown. So while there's like a picture here where like somebody's face is getting peeled off, that's pretty gruesome. So back in 2023, last year, there was a haunted attraction called Exile Trail of Terror. And so him and his family went to this. And so he was like really impressed with their production. So he reached out to the company's manager and he presented the idea to this guy. And after meeting and the talking back and forth, they decided to partner together to create this haunted attraction. So he says this will be unlike any other haunt before. It says this experience will be more than just a bunch of scare actors in a corn maze. It will be a living, breathing thing and will be too late when you realize what I mean by that.
So is this something you're going to check out? I mean, that's closer to you than it is to me.
Oh, yeah. I might have to go check it out and give you guys a report.
That could be cool.
It's going to be open from September 13th through November 2nd.
Wonder if he's trying to give, what's his name, Russ McCamey a run for his money?
Oh, man. If it's anything like that, I'm out. But
if you show up and you have to sign something, you're like, I'm good.
Yeah.
It could be cool, man. I mean, who else? Like, you go to a haunted house that's run by or created by the guy that's done some Saw movies, some of the most violent Saw movies at that. That's awesome. If you go, take pictures. Do a YouTube video.
Yeah, for sure, man. So, we all know who Glenn Close is, right? She's like famous actress from, like, Fatal Attraction, Devil Wears Prada. What? I mean,
101 Dalmatians, huh?
Yeah. So, there's a new movie called The Deliverance, and it just dropped on Netflix, actually. And I guess Glenn Close, she had, like, a pretty memorable line in the movie. Stars Andra Day, and she plays a struggling mother named Ebony Jackson who moves into an Indiana home with her 3 children and her mother Alberta, played by Glenn Close. The family not only struggles with Jackson's troubled past, but they also find themselves battling a demon who feeds off of the situation to possess one or more of her family members.
I'm in.
So I guess her Glenn Close's character has cancer and kind of has some issues with demons. I'll just leave it at that. Oh, okay. She says some pretty raunchy things in the movie, so I'll just kind of leave it at that.
I'm intrigued. She's going back to her Fatal Attraction days, Andy?
Yeah, I guess so, man. But
that's cool. Hey, man, you got demonic possession. I'm in.
So Smile 2 just got a new trailer out. And so I'm going to have to check that trailer out. Have you seen it?
I've seen the original theatrical trailer because they played it a few times when I went and saw like Long Legs and Quiet Place Day 1. And I loved the original Smile. And I'm really excited for the sequel. The casting looks cool too.
Yeah, it's got Naomi Scott. So I'm not familiar with her, but she stars as a pop diva dealing with a deadly curse that makes its victims do self-harm, which is pretty much like the first movie. So the first Smile was released in 2022, and it was a commercial hit, scored $217 million worldwide, so that was cool. Yeah, so this time around we follow singer Sky Riley, that's the character's name. They are about to embark on a world tour when they begin experiencing increasingly terrifying and inexplicable events. Overwhelmed by the escalating horrors and the pressures of fame, Sky is forced to face her dark past to regain control of her life before it spirals out of control.
I'm still shocked you don't know Naomi Scott.
Yeah, what was she in?
She played Jasmine in the 2019 Aladdin. She played Kimberly Hart in the 2000... Ooh, I forgot the year. I keep wanting to think 17, but the Power Ranger movie. She was in the remake of Charlie's Angels. Like, she's been all over the place. I think she was a Disney kid growing up, like one of the TV shows. I think it was Lemonade Mouth or something. I never watched it, but I think my kids did. But everything that I've seen her in, she just seems really enduring. She's really like a really good actress. And so when I saw this trailer, it was kind of excited because I'm like, oh, hey, it's her, but she's doing a horror movie. That's really cool. And I like how it is a little different from the first Smile movie, because you kind of wonder, like, okay, this is an easy premise, but what story are we going to have? Where are they going to take it from here? And it looks refreshing. And so I'm hoping for a little bit of like crossover to the first one, but I'm hoping they don't ruin that with the new trailer. So I'm not going to see the new trailer.
Yeah, I think I did see part of the new trailer, but I won't say anything about it. But
don't you do it, Andy.
Yeah, so one last little thing that I found that's interesting, that's up my alley, and I think we both are big fans of found footage. Am I correct?
You are definitely correct.
So there's a short going around on YouTube, and some people are saying it might be one of the best movies of the year. So, but this movie it's on YouTube for free, and as we know that a lot of movies that come out have big, huge budgets, but a lot of times the found footage they have smaller budgets. And we know that you don't need $1 million to make an effective horror movie. So, but we know historically horror movies with low budgets have become some of the genre's most iconic and has made stars of the directors, kind of like Blair Witch Project and Paranormal Activity. But this movie was released for free on YouTube, and the director's kind of hoping that it can be a springboard for them. So the director is Curry Barker, and the people are saying it could be the next David Fincher or Osgood Perkins, which Osgood Perkins was the guy that did Longlegs, right?
Yep, and Black Coat's Daughter, yeah.
Nice, yeah. I have seen Black Coat's Daughter, and that's a really cool movie.
You know who Oz Perkins is, though, like as a person, right?
He's like Anthony Perkins' son, right?
He is. Okay, just making sure you knew that.
Yeah, that's why I heard that somewhere. But this new guy, Curry Barker, his found footage slasher called Milk and Cereal, it's premiered for free on YouTube on August 8th, and it's garnered over 341,000 views, and it has a budget of only $800. So the film manages to do two things: be believable and unsettling. The plot follows two social media influencers who orchestrate a surprise birthday prank that goes terribly wrong, and then must face the devastating consequences that come after. So the director is actually a part-time comedian, and he's kind of like an improv comedian. And so I guess he uses some of that in this short. He kind of improv some of the dialogue.
Huh. Okay.
And his previous work has on another successful horror short called The Chair, which has millions of views. And that one looks like it's on YouTube as well. But Milk and Cereal is his newest one, and it's really captured the attention of a lot of people in the entertainment industry. The magazine Variety actually featured an entire article on the filmmaker and his latest work. And even on his previous work, The Chair, there's a lot of comments like, Hollywood needs to give this guy a budget. And he also said, but when you put a feature out there, it feels different in a way I didn't expect. The people who review feature films for a living are reviewing this movie, something they wouldn't do for a short film. But all of a sudden, you're seeing videos that discuss both Alien Romulus and Milk and Cereal in the same sentence. So that's kind of interesting. So the idea for the script arose from a segment that Curry wrote for his acting reel. Oftentimes, actors will create videos of themselves in different situations and genres to send to casting agents in hopes of booking a role. I wrote a comedy scene, he says. I wrote a cowboy scene, he says about his reel. I wrote all these different scenes, and I wrote one serial killer scene because I thought I could pull off this creepy serial killer vibe. This guy's telling this girl it's not a prank, and that he's going to kill her at the end of the night. It was just for my reel, but I thought, whoa, I can make this into a whole found footage movie. Okay, so although this Milk and Cereal film is not filled with over-the-top special effects or scenic locations, it's an effective thriller about an unhinged killer using social media to document his brand of insanity. The director, Curry, did secure a distributor for Milk and Cereal, but he decided to make it available for free on YouTube, so his fans didn't have to use a paywall or subscription to view it. So that's really cool. He says, I feel like our fans deserve to have the opportunity to watch this. They've seen the poster on my IMDb for a year and wondered, what is this? So even though we worked really hard for a year trying to get distribution for this thing, we said screw it and threw it on YouTube. Before, I always felt to be respected as a real movie, it has to be on Netflix or Shudder or Hulu or whatever. But people do respect it and respect that it's there for free too. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to have to go on. I haven't actually seen it myself. I'm going to have to go check it out now that I've kind of heard his story, a little bit about his story. And I like the idea that he put this for free on YouTube, even though they had a distributor that was ready to put it out there. He kind of seems like he's just kind of a dyed-in-the-wool kind of horror fan, and he wants to just he's doing it because that's what he loves, and that's really cool. Whenever we see a director that's kind of doing this, that really has the passion for horror, I think we want to do what we can to support people like that.
Absolutely. Shout out to Jed Bryan. But no, that's some high praise, man. Talking about Oz Perkins, David Fincher, like, okay, man, that's throw in David Cronenberg. There you go, right? But did you say it was a full-length feature or a short film?
It's a short film.
Short film. Ha. Even better reason to watch it. And we should also note that this is milk and cereal, but cereal's not spelled like the cereal you eat. It's like serial killer. I found that out when I was looking it up. I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, why is it called milk and cereal? Like, oh, I like it.
Yeah.
Smart people already knew that, though.
Yeah, just like smart people know about the next movie we're going to talk about in our classic horror segment.
Classic horror.
So speaking of cool people and things that they know, we know all about a cool movie called The Creature from the Black Lagoon, and that's going to be our review here on our classic horror movie segment. And me and Dave, we always talk about this movie. We talk about it because we love Universal horror, Universal monsters specifically, and the original Mount Rushmore. You got Frankenstein, Dracula, Bride of Frankenstein, The Invisible Man. I know that's more than 4, but Phantom of the Opera, and The Mummy, The Wolfman, and last but certainly not least, you have Creature from the Black Lagoon. So I know that's my favorite Universal monster, and I don't know about you, Dave. I think it's yours too. And it's also our friend Brian's. So, there's some great minds think alike for you all there. But anyway, we wanted to kind of talk about this movie and feature it as one of our first movies we talked about when we do our classic horror movie segments. Just to kind of start off with, it's Universal. This is like what everybody knows. It's kind of like the roots of horror, kind of the roots of our modern age horror, I would say. And definitely have all these different villains that they created. They're iconic even to this day. Even though you have Jason and Freddy in the 80s, I don't think that they're ever going to outshine the Universal monsters back in the 30s and 40s and 50s. So going into the cast, we have Richard Carlson, which is a favorite of mine. He's also in It Came from Outer Space. Dave, do you like Richard Carlson?
I do like Richard Carlson. I also really like It Came from Outer Space, which was done just like a year or two before Creature was done. Same director, which is really cool. But, Richard Carlson, I was telling Julie the other night, he also appeared in a movie with Judy Garland that I love. So I'm like, man, this guy was everywhere.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Yeah, and talking about the director, I mean, you've got Jack Arnold, and he is well known too. He's a legend. I mean, he's known for The Creature from the Black Lagoon. He's known for The Incredible Shrinking Man, and also just some other. He's done a lot of like TV too, like in the early 80s. I thought I was like Buck Rogers, Fall Guy, The Lobo. I thought that was kind of cool. He did the Bionic Woman, some of the episodes for that. He did some Wonder Woman episodes even. So yeah,
he returned for Revenge of the Creature, which is fantastic.
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, I did not.
That's your missing link, man. You've seen the first one, you've seen the third one. You still got to watch the second one. It's really good.
That's true. Ooh, he did Tarantula in 1955. Cool.
Yep.
I'll have to check that one out. But
he did Monster on Campus.
Ooh,
I don't know if you've seen that one. That one's really good. It's like a Neanderthal kind of man.
Nice. I'm gonna have to check out some of his other work. But yeah, I mean, it's cool. You have these familiar faces, these famous names that you've heard of in this movie. You have Julie Adams playing the role of Kay. She's not only she's a beautiful woman, she's been in some cool movies. She was in an episode of The Incredible Hulk. Okay, from the late 70s. That's cool.
Yep.
But I'm sure back in the day she was in some other stuff. Let's see.
Oh, dude, she was in a couple TV shows we love. She was in an episode of Kolchak the Night Stalker.
Ooh, nice.
And she was also in an episode of The Night Gallery.
Yeah, I see that. That's
little
cool.
Rod Serling love there. And so really cool when she pops up, but she'll always be known as Kay from Creature from the Black Lagoon because she is a fantastic standout in this movie.
Yeah, and also another name that looked familiar was Richard Denning.
Yeah, he's the asshole.
Exactly. It's funny, like
Man.
in these like horror sci-fi movies, kind of like Jurassic Park, you always have these like asshole characters that are just kind of in it for the money, and they try to exploit the creature, whatever the film's about, and it usually doesn't end up well for them, right?
Right, and he comes in and they try to create some sort of tension between the main characters with Richard Carlson's character and Kay because he plays Mark, and we're talking about Richard Denning, and Mark is kind of financing this whole thing, so he's kind of the boss man, but he also either he has an attraction to Kay or he is jealous that Kay is attracted to Richard Carlson's character, who he's Dave, by the way. Anytime there's a Dave, it's cool. I'm just saying. But man, you got to have somebody in this movie that you're not going to root for, somebody that is a bad guy, and the creature is not the bad guy. It's Mark.
Yeah, it's a good point you make there, Dave, because in this movie, yeah, I feel like the creature is scary, but it's really not presented as like a bad, like a villain. It's just a creature just there in the Black Lagoon in the Amazon minding its own business. And people kind of step on it in its territory, and so it just responds to them being there. And also responds to Kay, which I can't blame him, but yeah. But it's interesting, yeah, because we kind of have like a sympathetic character in this movie as far as the Gillman goes.
What do you think of the opening of this movie, Andy, whenever they do the whole thing similar to like Exorcist, where you have like paleontologists or people who are doing government research and they're digging up things and they find the skeletal remains of what was another Gillman, where it's prehistoric fish, man. They find the claw hand. That thing looks amazing. You can actually buy that and display it, if you want, but it looks awesome.
Yeah. No, I thought that the hand was really cool looking. I love that little, as a sculpture, it'd be really cool. But just as like the bones and everything, it looks really menacing, really scary, just kind of sticking out of that rock. And you're like, man, what did that come from? And, we find out later on. I thought, going back to like the very beginning, I thought it was interesting how they have this kind of narration. They talk about like evolution, and they also include the Bible, I thought, which is interesting, which I think is kind of a sign of the times. I think
absolutely
more people kind of went to church back then in the 50s, and that was kind of a more regular thing. And so they included, the Genesis, I think the first few verses of Genesis talking about, God created the heavens and the earth was void and without shape and all this kind of stuff, and how life kind of, but then they included evolution in there. So I thought that was kind of an interesting mix there.
It's for people who don't know their Bible. They'll be like, oh, wow, I didn't know this was from that.
Yeah.
The creature's from the Bible. Amazing.
But I thought it was cool how they kind of showed the evolution. They kind of showed the hybrid animal footprints in the sand coming out of the water. I thought that was kind of cool. And so it just kind of sets us up for our story, our setting, and showing that, yes, evolution probably took place, but then there's some things that are still around from that bygone era. And I love that. I love like the field of cryptozoology, where it's like, you kind of, you hear people talking about Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster, and this kind of fits in with that. It's just like creatures that may be around, but science hasn't officially recognized them or whatever. So I love when movies kind of deal with that topic. And so we definitely get that in this movie. And I at the beginning, we do get a good sense of all the different characters. And what about, but there was that scene though at the beginning. We do get like some kills right at the beginning of the movie. I thought it was really a kind of unsettling scene where they find the fossil, and then we actually get kind of a pan over shot where the camera is focusing on the water, and we see this claw kind of coming out of the water. So now we know that there is actually a living specimen. What'd you think about this first scene where like the main professor or the doctor, he leaves to go get other help, basically to come back and make this like an official expedition to kind of find these bones. But he leaves a couple of guys back at the camp to kind of stand guard, and the creature goes and attacks him.
Yeah, man. Typical 50s fashion. You have people playing these indigenous human beings that it never fails. They're always getting killed for their bad haircuts. And they look like something my mom would have tried to give me back in first grade, with, the choppy hair. But no, man. I mean, I don't know why they got to kill all the minorities in this damn movie. It is what it is. That part doesn't hold up well, but I do like what we get as far as the way that the creature is revealed, because we just see the hand for a while, then we get POV, so we know it can walk on land, and it kind of sets us up for a slow reveal, the ride that we're on. And I don't know, man. I like that we don't see the creature full on for a while, because it leaves it up to your imagination. And when we finally do see the creature, it's a fantastic reveal. The costume of the creature, I think, is one that goes down in history. I don't think it'll ever be beat. It was created by a woman, which is really, really cool. And not to say it couldn't be, but at that time period, that's a really big deal. So much so they tried to cover that up, and someone else took credit for it. But the lady's name who created it, his name is Millicent Patrick. And I thought that was important to bring up because, one, good for you, and two, she's from Texas, Andy.
Yeah, that's really great. She does get some recognition after all for her hard work. And I mean, that costume, that is some serious effects work. I mean, because if you think about the time, and this is one of the later Universal monsters, so they kind of had a chance to kind of build up their monster making skills, I guess, and maybe this had a bigger budget than some of the others, who knows. But I love even the gills on his side of his head.
Yes. And, we should talk about who plays the Gill Man, because we have the Gill Man on land and we have the Gill Man in water. And so whenever she created this costume, it was molded to Ben Chapman's head, who Ben Chapman played the creature on land. And, Ben Chapman did not have a very lucrative career. Like, he's only been in 8 films, some stock footage and whatever. This was pretty much the only horror thing he ever did outside of whenever it appeared with Abbott and Costello. But, if you're only going to be in one classic horror movie, why not Creature from the Black Lagoon? But I don't know, man. I got to say, I'm even more excited about Rico Browning. So what do you think of Creature in the Water?
Yeah, I mean, that was fantastic. And that had to be a challenge, trying to swim in that costume. I think, and also, I think we've known that he had to hold his breath for several minutes while they were filming this too.
Yeah, it is insane. And I know that they had stunt people around, but Rico's kind of a stuntman in himself, because he did most of that stuff, including swimming backwards, and a backstroke. Okay, you can do a backstroke. Can you do a backstroke deep in the water? Can you do it parallel to somebody else who's swimming above you without running into him? Rico is phenomenal, and I have several props in my house, things autographed. And yes, I'm kind of tooting my own horn, but I fucking love this franchise, and so I collect as much stuff of Creature from the Black Lagoon that I can. I had the privilege of talking to him once, and he's such a sweet guy, and it's really cool because you see his talents in this movie, but you see him again if you don't know, because he went on to create the TV show Flipper. So everything we know about Flipper, he's the mastermind behind that show. He wrote all the episodes and the story and everything.
Oh, okay, cool. I didn't know that.
Because he was a dolphin. Go figure.
Yeah. He kind of carried on his love for water there. That's cool.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, and, when we talked about the characters, we have the kind of the love triangle, and I do like that they kind of give each character a sense of identity. They kind of gave them a little bit of depth, and so I really like that.
And by depth, do you mean the fact that all these people smoke cigarettes? Yeah,
I noticed that. It's funny. Yeah, everybody's smoking, and nowadays everybody's a little more conscious of that. It's just
everybody's vaping instead.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Hey, so talking about Richard Denning as Mark, he was in another movie that we really like. He was in Creature with the Atom Brain.
Yeah, I saw that. That's cool. Yeah, and that's just a movie I just recently saw this year. So that's cool. Yeah, I mean,
and he was in The Black Scorpion, so that one will definitely make its appearance on the show.
But yeah, I need to see that one. Yeah, I really like the score in this movie. I thought it was a really cool score. It really accented the monster reveal, and it just every time it just added that layer of suspense every time the monster would show up, and I really liked it.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. I looked into who dealt with the compositions, and there was a handful of people, but most notable, Henry Mancini, who did the music for like Breakfast at Tiffany's and stuff. And
Oh yeah.
I was like, wait a minute. Creature from the Black Lagoon and Breakfast at Tiffany's? This guy's a rock star. But, dude, I'm with you because so many times the theme for this will get stuck in my head. And so much so that I'll hum half of it and I can hear in the other part of the house, Julie will hum the other half. And I'm like, yeah, that's my girl.
That's
She got
cool.
it down. But it's a lot of fun. And also what has become a big part of the soundtrack is the jungle sounds, man. Like after this movie was over, I could still hear like the apes and the birds making that sounds.
Yeah, I mean the setting was great, and it really gives you this really sense of adventure. You know, just the setting on the boat. Like this movie is kind of like a one location movie. Like a lot of things just happen on the boat once they get to their, like they travel to the lagoon, and once they get there, they're kind of just on the boat. You know, this movie's like a shorter movie, but I feel like there's a lot that happens in this movie, and so it feels like a quest, even though they only kind of stay in one place. It still feels like we're on a quest, and I really like that. And I think this movie definitely has a different feel than I think some of the other Universal Monster movies, because this movie doesn't have that gothic feel, that kind of classic old dark house feel like some of the other movies have.
Yep, completely opposite.
Yeah, it's almost more like an adventure movie, and so it's kind of cool. It kind of sits on its own there. You don't have to, it's not riding the coattails of the other Universal Monsters.
Hey, I got a question for you. I'm gonna put you on the spot. Do you remember the name of the boat?
Rita.
Yeah, the Rita. I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, they're on Rita. Wow.
Yeah, and speaking again of the boat, so much of this movie reminded me of Jaws. You know.
You're gonna need a bigger Rita.
Yeah, I can't remember what the name of the boat was in Jaws, but for some reason I kept thinking there was something there with the name of the boat in Jaws.
Is it not the Orca?
Remember. Oh, okay, that's what it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Another 4-letter word.
We almost lost some screamers.
Yeah, no, this just kind of reminded me of that kind of sense of adventure, which, it just had like a lighter. This movie has kind of like almost like a more adventurous tone to it, so I enjoyed it.
Why do you think the boat was called the Rita? Do you think it had anything to do with like someone the captain knew, or do you think it was like the back half of Margarita? A little drinky drink.
Oh,
Hey,
interesting.
Go figure.
Yeah, I actually had that thought too. I think it's like maybe like a long lost love of the captain's or something like that. Maybe it's just
Completely not, man, because every captain loves the sea. Come on.
Oh yeah,
Or
that's
the
true.
lagoon, I guess in this case.
Well, it could be short for señorita too.
Oh, look at you spinning it around. I thought you didn't speak Spanish. We went through this earlier. Hey, man, we got to talk about the captain. His name is Nestor Pavia, and he was Captain Lucas. He was hands down one of the greatest characters in this movie. What did you think of him, man? He was awesome.
Yeah, I really liked his character. He did kind of add a little sense of like, I don't know, humor. He kind of broke up some of the suspense. Because he just kind of like was like whatever, he didn't really care he cared about his boat, but he was kind of like pretty down to earth, and I really liked his character.
Yeah, I felt like outside of the creature, he was a scene stealer. There's times when he popped up, and like you said, he's kind of comic relief. He's smoking a cigar. He's doing his own thing. He's playing cards. He's got his ship hands. He's got his mates with him, and everything is cool. But man, whenever Mark tried to break bad on him and be an asshole, dude, Lucas put him in his place. It was one of the best parts of the movies. Lucas tried to basically say, hey, I'm funding this expedition. Like, you're going to do what I say. And Lucas pulled his knife out and put it to his throat and was like, on the boat, you do what I say. And I was just like, you get him, Lucas. Yeah, fuck Mark.
Yep. Yeah, it's the captain's law on the boat.
That's right, man. And speaking of this captain, Nestor, dude, he actually reprises his role in Revenge of the Creature. So something for you to look forward to. It's not a big role, but it's cool to see him again. But that dude had a massive career, and I'll only mention 2 more movies, but he was in Tarantula, and he was also in one that I love so much. I don't know if you've seen it yet, The Mole People. That's a great movie.
No, I have not seen that one yet, but it is on my radar.
Okay.
Somebody actually on Reddit suggested that to me, so I'm going to have to check it out.
Well, now your co-host is suggesting it to you. Do it.
Yeah. One of the big things in this movie, I think that was like a achievement for the time, is the underwater photography. I think I don't know if there's I'm sure there was other movies that had at the time, but I don't know. This had to be like an achievement, just being able to film as much as they did underwater. And
with that giant camera.
Yeah, I'm sure it was giant. Yeah. But it just gives us some of these cool shots, like the creature swimming along with Kay as she's swimming, like it's swimming underneath her and she has no idea it's even there. It's just really kind of adds some suspense to the whole scene. And I really like the character of the creature. Just we know that it has some intelligence. It's actually stalking Kay. It's not just like a dumb animal.
Are you saying that you'd be smart if you stalked Kay?
Well, I don't know. I'm not saying he's dumb, but
He's saying he's got good taste. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, did you see who the director of photography was? William Snyder. I'm going to pretend I know him. I'm going to call him Bill Snyder. But that dude had a really nice career, and I have to bring up the fact that he worked on the unaired pilot episode of Star Trek, and that is so near and dear to my heart because I'm a Trekkie. And so I'm going to say kudos to everything you did, but this guy went to great places.
Yeah, sounds like it. Working on this and working on Star Trek at the same time. In the same film career, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like how they talk about their whole idea behind researching underwater and underwater life is to benefit their outer space exploration, because they kind of view like the oceans and stuff kind of like almost as like remote as outer space, and how they talk about how like there's vast parts of the ocean that have been unexplored and things like that. So I really like that when they kind of include that kind of stuff.
See, Andy, I 100% agree with that, and that brings up the question: if you could choose, would you rather go like safely, no problems, right? Go into space or go into the depths of the ocean?
That's a good question.
I go to space, bro, hands down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm terrified of the water. Come on, man. That's what makes these movies so scary for me, and I love them. But what you got?
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking of like, so you can encounter the alien in outer space or some kind of like Cthulhu in like the deep ocean.
Yeah, just think about that movie Underwater. Do you really want to experience that?
Yeah, no.
There you go. Nobody drowns in space, bro. Well, I guess you lose oxygen either way. Huh.
I thought it was interesting in this movie that they actually captured the creature. I kind of forgot about that part, I guess.
The part that always blows me away is whenever they light the creature on fire. Such a memorable look, because he gets hit by that like lantern and his head is engulfed in flames, and I'm like, oh, geez, man. Trying to burn up the gill, man.
That was a pretty shocking scene, pretty unsettling scene, and that guy survived.
Yep.
And it kind of gives us some interesting scenes later on, because he is confined to a bed on the boat, and his face is kind of wrapped up in bandages, so we don't really see him act that much. But he still gets some scenes. He's not done with the movie, because there's one scene where he's laying in bed, and the creature's actually reaching through the open porthole, like over him, almost like trying to grab him out of there. I thought that was pretty cool. And then there was like a fight scene later on in the movie where the guy's just kind of like laying there watching it happen, and they're like fighting back and forth and kind of like bumping into him and stuff, and the guy just has to lay there and watch it. I thought that was kind of funny.
That was funny. And then Dave took Mark to school, man. Knocked his ass out.
Oh, yeah.
That was giving me vibes of Anaconda. I don't know if it's been a while since you've seen that movie, but in Anaconda, one of the characters gets injured, and he's also stuck on the boat in bed like that. So made me think of that.
Yeah, that's a good point. It does kind of remind me of that movie too, but just in general, there's lots of action in this movie. This is definitely not like a slow burn. This is not like a quiet movie. It's not like a still dark night movie. This is like you're in the kind of like in the full sunlight, like, what am I trying to say? Middle of the day, lots of action. This is like has a very like
Andy's trying to say you're outside during the day.
Yeah, there you go. But like I said, this is just another thing that kind of differentiates this movie from some of the other Universal monster movies. We don't have a lot of we do have some investigation going on, but This is like just more like in your face action, and so it's kind of cool. This movie has its own style. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
It does have its own style, but it also shares one thing with the other Universal monster movies outside of the fact of being great is it's got a love story. And so if you like any of the Universal monster movies, then you'll like this one as well.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. So going to talking about the love story, I think the professor at the beginning, he asked them, so you guys aren't married yet? And then I think later on they talk about they've known each other for like 6 months. I was like, okay.
They move fast, Andy. That's okay.
Yeah. But I bought into their relationship. I thought Kay and Dave, they were nice. They were good together.
I agree. But I want to ask you a question. What did you think of towards the end of the film when we get to see the creature's lair? Man, I wanted to spend more time in there. That place was cool.
Yeah, that was one of the notes I had down too. Was the cave? The grotto. I really liked that. It was cool to kind of see the creature's lair, and but yeah, we just get to kind of see a couple little spots in it. But yeah, no, it's cool. I mean, I'm sure this was like a set that somebody made, but I mean, you gotta give kudos to the production design of this movie. I mean, it's pretty good.
It never looked as good as it did in the older black and white films, my dude.
And that is one of the things that, having black and white, it does kind of like, you can kind of get away with some things, I feel like, on that.
One thing that's really crazy is if you seek out posters of the movie or lobby cards or anything like that, they're always colorized. And I never really thought twice about it, because if you were to colorize a black and white movie, more times than not, it would be ridiculous and it probably would ruin the movie. I mean, look at it. It's a Wonderful Life in color. You'll see what I mean. But, when I look at some of the stuff around the room, it's like almost everything is the creature is green, but you forget that when you watch the movies because he's always gray. And so even though it speaks for itself, it took me a long time to really go, wait a second, I like this in color. Okay, not the movie, only still frames. But yeah, if you try to get the lobby cards, they're all colorized, and that kind of blew my mind because the movie's in black and white.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know, like the ending was a little kind of sad, I think. Just with the way, do we want to spoil this or?
That's kind of funny because my gut instinct is this movie is super old. Yes, we can spoil it. And then I'm also thinking, who hasn't seen this movie already? Are we actually spoiling it? So
yeah, I'm sure most people have seen it.
Yeah.
But it does kind of have a sad ending where the creature does get shot. And so that makes you, knowing that the movie has sequels, I'm like, so is there more than one creature? And Dave, you don't have to tell me. I need to. I know I need to watch the sequel, but it just kind of brought that question up to my. It's like, where do they go from here with the sequels? Because apparently the creature's dead, but apparently not, or maybe not. I don't know.
Oh, I'll ruin it for you. Kay becomes the creature.
What?
No, I'm playing, dude.
Okay.
You get creature boobs. You didn't know that? Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Creature from the Black Lagoon?
No, I think I'm good. I mean, just my kind of final thoughts on it, or just it's a great monster movie. And it's one of the earliest monster movies that we have, and if anybody hasn't seen it out there, you definitely should go check it out. It gives you it's a good foundation for a lot of the creature features that came out after it. For
sure. And let me ask you real quick, how did you watch Creature from the Black Lagoon?
So I ended up renting this one on Amazon Prime.
Okay, cool. That's what I thought. It doesn't really stream anywhere for free, and it can still make its money. That's why, because it's so damn good. I own this on Vudu, and then I have various physical copies. But, if you want to watch this movie for free, if you have the ability to watch Plex actually has a Universal Monsters channel. And Creature, yeah, dude, you can go there and watch so many great things, and a lot of it you can even watch ahead of time if you want to. So I highly recommend Plex. It's free. There's a Universal Monster channel that plays a lot of movies and a lot of movies you don't know, and a good chance a movie that will eventually be on this podcast. And so I'll just double down with what you said of, I love this movie. I highly recommend this movie. It never gets old. So Andy, I'm ready to segue to the next movie. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready to get into our main event.
begins.
Hey, Andy, when's the last time you had to run for your life?
When's the last time I had to run? I don't know. It's been a while.
You ever done an obstacle course before?
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, I actually never have either, and I don't think I've done anything as physical as my job is very, very physical, and I played sports in school, and I played with the kids outside, but I've never done a mud run. I've never done anything that made me climb a wall or crawl in puddles and under fences and all kinds of things that they do in this movie. But I got to say that it gave me a new perspective on some of this stuff. And so, of course, we're talking about 2022's Obstacle Corps. And Andy, we were both very aware of this movie's existence.
Yeah, for sure. It is directed by the one and only Hope Madden, one half of the Mad Wolf team. And they George and Hope, they both host the Fright Club podcast, one of our favorite horror podcasts out there, and it's really good. And they also host like a local horror movie showings at like a local theater there in Ohio, where they're from. So that's pretty cool.
And so no surprise that this movie takes place in Ohio. And this was Hope's first film. And I know for a while I was wanting to stay away from this movie because we know Hope, and if it was bad, I wouldn't have had the heart to tell her. But I was like, Andy, this is a new movie. We need to watch this. Let's review it, and let's see what happens. And I think we were both pleasantly surprised because this movie was a horror comedy, and I didn't know that.
Yeah, I kind of saw that on IMDb, and I it's just, it kind of, having that in mind kind of set your expectations, I think, and so just so you know, it's like not to be taken like super serious. This is definitely done for laughs. It's not like one of those movies where you're going to be scared. It's more of like it's interesting because there's like a lot of things going on below the surface. There's some layers, I think, with things that are happening with some of the central character especially. But no, I mean, it's definitely done for laughs. We definitely have one character that adds a lot of humor into the movie. So it's funny, get into this movie, like right off the bat, I thought that you might have had a bit role in this movie because in the first scene, there was a guy in a gesture hat. I was like, man, that looks an awful lot like Dave, but I don't think it was it?
No, unfortunately, I was not in this movie, but I really hope to be in a sequel. So if Hope hears this episode, if there is an Obstacle Corps 2, hit me up. I will work for free. But the characters you talk about in this movie are pretty interesting because it's kind of a who's who of not necessarily actors, but of characters, because somebody from every like friend group you're going to recognize in this movie. You have freaks and geeks, and you have your athletic people, you have your very not athletic people. So everybody's represented in this movie, and that was quite comforting. I really liked seeing something that I felt that this could be real. And saying that, it's funny because I talked to Julie, and she has actually done obstacle courses like this, and she was cracking up the whole time because she said I wasn't able to relate to some of the situations that the characters were in, but she definitely was. And so I think that the movie's potentially even better than what credit I can give it. But if you have any experience with an obstacle course, think about it going south as far as your own death. It's kind of got that like Saw Trap vibe to some of it. But Andy, the thing that blew me away was how this story is you enter with your +1, and then some of the end goal is kill your teammate. Did that take you by surprise?
Yeah, I wasn't sure what the setup was going to be, and so yeah, we find out that people, I guess, that have people that pay are like elite members. So there's like this organization, or basically like these rich people that run this obstacle course, and so they charge other people to run the obstacle course. But then the whole idea behind it is these people that pay to be a part of it can also bring their +1. And that +1 is somebody that they will have the opportunity to murder during the course of the obstacle course. I keep wanting to say obstacle corpse.
Dude, I know. It's such a great play on words that it messes me up every single time. But let me ask you a question. Let's talk about our main two characters. We have Sonny and Ezra. What did you think of them?
I really like this too. This duo here. I think they both had great acting. They both were very relatable characters. I like the character of Sonny. I think it took a little bit to kind of get into the characters, but I think once you kind of understood them and kind of got a feel for them, they really carried this movie. So I really enjoyed having these characters for sure.
Yeah, their relationship, their friendship was extremely authentic. And I know this movie is a low budget film. In fact, I know that Andy and I both paid a little bit towards it because there was a GoFundMe or an Indiegogo for it at one point. And so, yeah, wear your obstacle corpse shirt or headband or wristband, whatever you got. But yeah, Andy shows his. But, outside of that, you have a casting director. And so obviously, you have people who probably know Hope that appear in the movie, but you have people that are generally really good at acting. And I loved a handful of people. I thought everybody did a good job, but a handful of people did a really, really good job. And the three that I want to talk about the most are your main two characters, Sonny, who's she's supposed to be your weakling girl, who is actually your very strong-spirited girl, and her dad, I think, persuades or enters her into this obstacle course because she's one of three daughters, and she gets treated like the ugly stepsister because I guess she's the weird one, and she doesn't bring anything to the table, maybe nothing to talk about, no accomplishments, and so this is going to be her, earn her statue, right, in her family. But she's partnered with her best friend, who's Ezra, who is an extremely likable guy. He was great. I felt like he was somebody that everybody knows. He was somebody that everybody can relate to in some shape, way, or form. And like I said, their friendship was authentic, so it was really, really good. But then I have to be brutally honest with this, man. There are 20, 25 people in this movie, but for me, there is one. And it was the character of Mason, who was played by Hope and George's son, Donovan. And he was hysterical.
Oh, yeah, for sure. He really steals the show. I mean, every scene he's in, I mean...
He kills somebody.
Yeah, basically, yeah. But no, he's great. I mean, I love the whole idea of, there's this organization that's doing this, that has this thing set up to do something evil, but then this other person, this third party shows up as kind of an agent of chaos, and I think that's funny, just to kind of throw a wrench in the works. And we don't really know. I guess we find out pretty early on that he's not part of the race. He's not really supposed to be there, and we don't really know why he's there at first. So there's a little bit of mystery there, and we do find out some of his motivations. So I really like the character. As you kind of find out more and more about him, I really do like the character.
Well, yeah, the first time we meet him, he's in a chef's outfit and he's running a food truck. And it's kind of funny because there's no catering here, but we find out what his intentions are. And man, not only are the death scenes pretty creative, there were some of them that were just downright awesome looking, very practical.
Yeah, I was really impressed by the practical effects that we got. And everything was practical, I might add. There's no CG in this whole movie. No CGI in this whole movie.
Nothing stood out to me.
Which was impressive for a lower budget movie. I mean, they had everything was on screen. Everything, it's what you see is what you get, and so I like that. It's really kind of almost like grassroots filmmaking. You can tell that they have a passion for
the genre.
Yeah, for the genre, for practical effects, and it really comes out. So I was really impressed with the level of effects in this lower budget film.
Yeah, it was a healthy mix of money invested in the death scene and then some off-screen kills that would typically bother you if they weren't executed well, but because of the character of Mason, it just sells it right away. And I mean, obviously we're talking about the movie, so we're going to spoil some things. And so if you haven't seen Obstacle Corpse, it is available for free on Plex and Tubi. Go watch it. We do recommend you see it. If nothing else, support some friends of the podcast. But more importantly, just to see something that is kind of unusual, rare, and is downright a good time. And with that being said, that was your warning of spoilers. Andy, I love the scene where the dude got his head cut off.
Oh, yeah.
And the blood's spurting out. I'm like, classic, 80s classic.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That is definitely something. That is something that now it just kind of occurred to me. This does remind me of maybe some of those 80s like shot on video horror films, you know?
Yep.
Especially with some of the effects kind of harken back to those days. It's kind of funny.
I really liked one of the scenes where you can tell that there's some love for Texas Chainsaw Massacre because we get some face peeling, and I'm always a fan of that.
Oh yeah, that scene was really gross, but you know, I mean, it's
unnerving.
Yeah, unnerving. I mean, but it was impressive that they were able to do that. And you know, just before that, there's like that fight scene with, I think they're like
wrestlers.
They're like two wrestlers. And,
yeah.
You know, they look like they're professional. That was a pretty cool fight scene, you know, that they had there.
Yeah, I saw that the guy had appeared in an AEW wrestling before, and so there's definitely something to it. But when they were promoted to be in the movie, it was kind of like, hey, I can't believe we got these people in the movie. And so, you know, even though I didn't know who they were, I quickly realized that they were somebody important, you know? And so they showed their chops, though, because they're doing a really cool wrestling skit just with the two of them in a tree. I was like, well, that's fun.
Yeah, I mean, they were just out there in the woods doing like a professional wrestling match. And, I mean, usually they have like the pads and the ring and stuff and the turnbuckles, but...
Hell no, this is backyard wrestling, Andy.
Yeah.
Hey, man. You saw George, didn't you?
I did. I recognized the cameo. That was pretty funny.
Did you catch his name? He was the Angry Man, and he was damn right angry in this movie.
Oh yeah, yeah. He was not ashamed to. He was letting those F-bombs fly, and he was definitely the Angry Man. But it was a great cameo.
It's not the same George you hear on the Fright Club podcast, that's for sure. He let loose.
Yeah, no, but it was great, and I was expecting some cameos, and I wasn't disappointed.
You know, one thing that stood out to me, just kind of my taste, was, you know, I asked Julie about this, and she said it's actually a thing. So she said when people do these obstacle courses, sometimes people really do come dressed up as characters, like a team representation. And I thought that was just something from the movie, so that was cool, a cool additive. But it reminded me of like the Warriors. Do you remember that movie?
Yeah.
Did you get that vibe too?
Yeah,
especially the baseball players.
Yeah, the baseball players. Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like
skull crushing.
I feel like they took direct inspiration from that for sure.
What did you think of the clowns? You gotta love clowns.
Oh yeah, clowns are always good. You know, these were like, I think one was one was kind of a good guy. It turned out you weren't sure what these clowns were up to. Like, I think one was like up to no good, but they got taken care of pretty quick. And then the other one, the sad clown, I think was...
Yep. Happy clown and sad clown.
Yeah, so I think the sad clown turned out to be an all right guy.
I like how the movie kind of established a villain within the characters. You had Stephanie, who she was kind of like your fitness yoga mom type character, maybe soccer mom, you know, but she broke bad on some people. She, you know, knife wielded and handled it, and even faked her own death at one point. And so when she came back, I was like, I like this character.
Yeah, shooting range Stephanie. Yeah,
shooting range Stephanie. That's right. Have you ever been to a shooting range?
Yeah, I have. Yeah,
man, I'm from Texas and I've never done that. I lost a point.
Yep. But yeah, no, it was interesting to see the progression of the characters, like the evolution of all these different characters, because you have a group of just kind of random people, and then as the movie goes on, they kind of start developing their own characters. You kind of see direction. Each character's kind of going in a different direction. Some become villains. Some are just like fodder for the you know, to be killed or whatever. But yeah, it was interesting to see how things played out.
I agree.
What'd you think about so like thinking about like the score? I thought it was interesting. I think a lot of the music was provided by
New Plague Radio.
Yeah, the New Plague Radio. Like, I think it's George and Hope's son's band. Yeah,
it really got me interested in the music for sure. And you call it the score. I call it a soundtrack, man. That guy had some like Weird Al Yankovic meets punk rock. It was pretty groovy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this was pretty lively music, and it definitely added to the the fun atmosphere of the movie, I feel like. And there was also some female like acapella stuff going on. It kind of almost made me feel like is there like a cult thing going on here or what? But no, I think it was just added, it kind of added to the ambiance.
It did. And, we talked about how like Creature from the Black Lagoon was set outside the whole time. Like this movie, most of it takes place outside during the daylight. And so you get to see everything clear as day. And yes, pun. But I don't know, man, going into this, not knowing it was a horror comedy, it kind of took me off guard, and I had to like adjust my mindset a little bit and go, okay, this is going to be a lot lighter than I thought. I need to be prepared to okay, comedy subjective, am I going to like this or whatever? But luckily I was able to shift my mind frame in a way that it allowed me to enjoy the film. And the more I go back and think back on what I had watched, I kind of ready to watch it again.
Yeah, this is definitely I would call this a dark comedy. It's one of those movies where you're kind of laughing at things that you might not normally laugh at. Some and other movies that may be like some unsettling or disturbing scenes and this one the way it's presented, you kind of find yourself kind of chuckling a little bit. And there's definitely some twists and turns that I wasn't expecting, especially I'll just say with some twins. I was kind of expecting to go down a different path than what it went. So it's definitely not predictable. I really like that.
Well, Andy, that brings forth a question. You ready to rate this thing?
Yeah, I think so.
What did you think of Obstacle Corpse?
I think for me, like, comedy horror is not like my typical movie I kind of seek out, but this was definitely fun. And it's definitely something I could see watching again, like throwing up, like if you're at a party and like your friends want to see something fun. Like this is definitely something you can throw on and everybody's going to have a good time with it. I'm going to give this one 3 out of 5 Screaming Skulls.
Awesome, man. And I'm pretty close with you. Going in, as I mentioned, I was kind of nervous to watch a movie that a friend made because the fact that we rate it. And I was like, oh man, if this is bad, I have to say it's bad. But if it's good, I get to say it's good. Okay, it's worth doing. Luckily, it is good. And I do recommend it. And I will say that I was struggling on where to put it on my system. I knew it wasn't a 1 and 2, but is it a 5? Are there things that were so great it made it a 5? And I would say if I could have been in the movie, I would have gave it a 5. Just kidding. But but I'm very comfortable around the 3. And I think I'm even going to go up a little and go 3.5 Screaming Skulls. Not to just outshine you, Andy, but I'll just say anytime kids are killed in horror, you're going to get at least half a star from me because I'm a dad and I can still look at it and go, that shit's awesome. So yeah, I'm going to go 3.5 Screaming Skulls.
Yeah, man, it's definitely a fun movie. Everybody should go check it out. I watched it on Tubi. I think that's probably where both of us watched it.
Yep.
And I think there's a Blu-ray out too, if I'm not mistaken. There's something, they had some kind of partnership with Horror Pack, I think. So there was like a Blu-ray that came out in Horror Pack.
Awesome. I'm going to have to hit them up and see if they can custom make me a VHS.
Oh, yeah, that'd be cool.
All right. Hey, man, before we let people go, I got a little announcement to make. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
This is my birthday episode because my birthday's around the corner. And not only did I have a great time talking Creature and Obstacle Corpse, we finally got some socials out there. So a little bit of plugs right here. Screaming Skull Podcast is finally available on TikTok. It's available on Instagram. It's available on X. And we have a YouTube channel. And so you can subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. The audio will be available. Andy and I are going to eventually do some really cool videos to upload to YouTube. We might do some unboxing videos. We might do some custom just meet and greet type things. We might even just do some video podcasting. I don't really know, but if you want to stay in touch with what's going on, or if you want to find out about future movies or request a movie, please reach out, let us know. You can follow us everywhere, and Andy and I would love nothing more, honestly, just to hear from the Screamers. And so, Andy, it was great doing this thing with you, and I'm ready to get people on the socials to hit us up.
Oh yeah, man, definitely, for sure. It's a good chance for us to get out there and kind of interact with you guys, with our Screamers out there. So that wraps up this episode. Until next time, I'm Abnormal Andy.
And I'm Phantom Dark Dave.
And thanks for listening to the Screaming Skull Podcast.